All right, I have 6 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order. We're going to please stand. We start with an invocation by Councilperson Podak.
Dear Lord, you don't need to wait for one day. Your purpose is here and now. Your relationships, parenting, work, school, and daily tasks are significant. God has placed you on this earth at this time in this season for the purpose of serving this generation and generations to come. The breath in your lungs is proof of your purchase. In Jesus' name.
Good, turn and face the flag and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag. The republic which stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Clerk, could you do the roll call of the council members?
Lehman,
Present.
Podak,
President.
Cassidy,
Here.
Baker, Hall,
Here.
Mendoza,
Here.
Lake.
Here.
All right, all are present. If you could look over the minutes to the previous meeting, and we'll entertain a motion to approve them if necessary. Desired.
We still have registration of rental in here
On the
minutes.
so that needs to be changed to
It's on the page 4.
I think I got an amended one earlier today
Oh, the minutes?
for the minutes.
I didn't, this is the one she just passed out,
Yeah.
and she said it's the latest one.
So we do need to make sure that gets corrected to the current wording.
Which one?
Page 4, the registration of rental property.
Second to last.
Trying to find the wording for the landlord and
That's what I thought. It's gotta reflect what it was. I can't change the minutes. Thank you. How it was.
I was thinking of the agenda. Yeah, it's corrected on the agenda.
Change it to,
do we have a reflection of the name change in the minutes?
should change it.
I'm looking for it. Did we write the correction of the name change in our minutes?
It's noted there.
Okay,
There's the motion and then the second, and amend the language to show it landlord and tenant's rights.
great, thank you. Looks like we're all good in the minutes.
I'll move to approve the previous council meeting minutes.
All right,
Second.
we have a motion by Mendoza, a second by Lake for the minutes. Clerk, would you call the roll?
Lehman,
Yes.
Podak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza, Lake.
Yes.
Previous minutes have been approved. Under communications, it has been requested that the clerks read a letter from the Hoover Law Office. I'd like to do so now.
Okay, yeah, this is a letter to Stephanie Kaiser from Timothy Hoover that says, "Dear Miss Kaiser, on behalf of my client, 304 North Main LLC, I am hereby demanding that you, on behalf of the city of Fostoria, Ohio, immediately file a complaint for unlawful taking of my client's real property in violation of U.S. Constitution Amendment 5 and Article 19, Section 1 of the Ohio Constitution. Alternatively, the city of Fostoria, Ohio is free to purchase my client's property at 304 North Main Street, Fostoria, Ohio 44830, for the appraised price of $153,670 pursuant to the Seneca County Auditor, plus back rental of $2,400 per month from January 1st, 2024 to date. Please be advised that if the city fails to compensate my client or act, we will have no recourse but to file a lawsuit. Thank you for your time and attention. Very truly yours, Timothy Hoover.
Thank you. I'm sure there's probably some interest in discussing that. However, since that sounds like it has become pending potential court action, that discussion should be had in executive session if you desire. So near the end of the meeting, we can go into executive session for that. But I would encourage you to refrain from discussion in public at this point because of the pending potential court action with that. Any other communications?
That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Reports to the committees. Before we get into the reports, I should announce, and I'll try to remember to announce again at the end of the meeting, is that we have an election on March 19th. So we are not allowed to meet March 19th. So we will have to meet on March 20th, Wednesday, which means that some of the committees may need to make sure that their committee meetings are also on that Wednesday, March 20th, instead of what we had originally said, which was March 19th. So before we go into committee reports, I wanted to make that announcement so we can adjust accordingly.
Okay.
I believe it's our city charter that does not allow us to meet on election days. I think, Mr. Allison, is that correct? Oh, he's not listening. Demerits, Mr. Allison. Okay. All right. We'll go into committee meetings. Mr. Allison, I was asking you to confirm if it was our charter that says, our charter says we can't meet on election days. Right, okay. Thank you. All right. We'll go into committee reports, the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee met just before our previous meeting on February 20th at 5:30. It was a very brief meeting. Mr. Dandrian was traveling, so the committee reviewed his January 2024 financials. Jill Filiator spoke from the public addressing the committee regarding there's no recognition of a public and private partnership disclosed in the recovery plan, the 5-year forecast. That would be related to the Vision 2020 water pad, fountain pad. She was going to touch base with Mr. Dandurand upon his return. The next meeting will be March 20th at 5:30.
Thank you. All right, Public Affairs Committee.
The Kiwanis Club of Fostoria will be holding their annual Pancake Day this Thursday, March 7th, from 11 to 7 at the St. Gwendolyn Parish Life Center. Also, 1st through 5th grade age children are invited to join Miss Cheryl Graves at the Fostoria Community Arts Council on Saturday, March 16th from 10 to noon for a St. Patrick's Day / Easter Kids Art Workshop. This is a free event. However, you must register your child by calling Miss Graves at 419-435-7474. Thank you.
Thank you. Law and Ordinance Committee.
Just as a reminder, the legislation under new business this evening to amend the traffic control map is per the request of the Street Department and should have a full 3 readings. The next Law and Ordinance meeting will be held on Wednesday, March 20th at 5:15 here in Council Chambers.
Okay, thank you. We'll move into reports to the officers. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. With regards to utilizing video as our meeting minutes, I'd like to point out that the Seneca County Commissioners began doing so in 2007 using CDs to record their meetings, and since 2012 have been using YouTube to record their meetings. Minutes are often summaries and can be misled or lack accuracy. Videos record what is said. Also, Reservoir 4, Lake Mosier, is almost completely drained. They will now begin surveying the property and developing the plans for the wetlands area. And I will have an appointment to make during the miscellaneous section of tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Director of Law.
Thank you. Looking at the business tonight, there is one piece of old business, the one regarding the schedule of fees. The compliance department has requested that if possible, if we could pass that as an emergency tonight, just because they've had, they've come to a standstill at some, I think some permits on some, some non-conforming structures, thank you. Non-conforming structures, so he hasn't been able to kind of process all of those. We're waiting for this to pass, so if you guys are so inclined, they'd be very grateful if you could pass that as an emergency just to kind of get that moving. Then in the new business, I believe Councilman Cassidy would like the resolution regarding the Railway Safety Act to be passed as an emergency, probably because that's, ongoing right now in the legislature. And as usual, the appropriations and the then and now resolution, the ordinance and resolution should be passed as emergency. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Director of Finance.
A couple of items. The annual meeting of the Tax Incentive Review Committee will be meeting next week. As part of that, we've been reaching out to the companies that have community reinvestment agreements with the city and just getting updated on those to make sure they're meeting the requirements of the agreement, that they still earn the incentive per se. The office, the auditor's office, will be posting on the website and in other areas an opening that will be coming in the office. Our income tax administrator will be retiring the 1st of June, and we are looking for somebody to fill that role with an accounting background. Clerical accounting background is fine, a 2-year degree. But if you do know of anybody in the area that is interested in a position in the auditor's office, it would be for income tax clerical work as well as accounting clerical work. The appropriation change for tonight, if you want me to go into detail on that now, or do you want to wait till?
It's up to you.
Okay, I'll walk through it now. So we're going to make some changes to our permanent appropriations that we set back in December. So we're making changes to our budget. That's what that's all about. The first thing is we did not budget for the refunds that go back out to individuals who post a $250 fee in case of a fire or other, in essence, deposits. So we receive that money in. When we refund it back out, we have to appropriate and budget for that. That's what the $1,000 is. So as those refunds are needed, we need to have those budgeted. The $45,000 to be appropriated in the general fund for government auditor contractual services, that is associated with the then and now purchase order. So back in 2021, we agreed with our software company to upgrade modules. The total cost of that was $89,000, and we paid a 50% deposit. And then once all 3 modules were implemented, we owe the additional $45,000. The purchase order was opened back in 21, but somewhere between 21 and 23, it got closed. I would say it probably got closed in 22, more than likely. So we need to now open one because we've committed to those dollars, and it's not a surprise to anybody. It's more a compliance issue. The $9,000 in the donations, fire donations fund, and the $25,000 in the fire donations fund, we have $34,000 in that fund. We did receive an additional $9,000 from Poet, but we've never, in our budget, while we had the funds there, never appropriated to spend any. And in working with Fire Chief Root, he was working with Poet. They did donate $9,000 for some equipment, and so that's the $9,000 that you see in the operating supplies that they will be purchasing some equipment for the fire department. The other $25,000 that is being appropriated we are not sure how we're going to spend yet, but the dollars are available, but we cannot spend them till council says it's okay to spend. So if you approve that, that gives Chief Root some flexibility in terms of other things that he's looking for the department. The $124,000 decrease in appropriations, which is a good thing. So when we were doing the budget back in the fall, in the ARPA grant, we were not sure if we would have spent the remaining balance by year end. And because most of it is a salary allocation, you can't really open up a purchase order for it. So Cindy, in putting our budget together, suggested we just carry that appropriation forward into the next year. Well, we did end up spending and allocating salaries into that fund before 23 was out, so we do not have the $124,000 to spend. So now we want to decrease that since there's no dollars there to spend. The $40 decrease in the Triangle Rail Park Fund is a compliance issue. We have appropriated $40 more than we have money available, so that's a cleanup issue. And the $3,000 appropriation in the Stormwater Fund, what we have decided to do is when we allocate postage for our sewer and water bills, part of that postage should be allocated into the Stormwater Fund. So that's what we're doing now. But we cannot appropriate and spend it until council approves the fact that there is $3,000 there for the postage. Long-winded explanation for one appropriation.
Thank you. With that, we will move into the public portion of the meeting. We do have two people who requested time to speak this evening. The first person is Tawny Lejeune from the Seneca County Opportunity Center.
Hello. My name is actually Amy Miller. I'm the Director of Community Advocacy and Supports with Seneca County Opportunity Center, and we're here just to celebrate March as Developmental Disabilities Month. And I have here an advocate with me, Sean Allison. Sean's very involved in the Fostoria community and also works in Fostoria, which he'll tell you a little bit about, but we just want to thank you for letting us be here and talk about March.
Excuse me. Could you move the microphone a little closer?
Yes.
I'm an old man, my hearing.
I'm sorry.
So,
We have a lot of great events to celebrate DD Awareness Month that we'll talk about as well. So thank you for letting us come today.
Then, of course, I'm Sean Allison. I work for the Seneca County Opportunity Center in Fostoria, Ohio, and at the Corner Ice Bistro, which is a coffee shop located in Tiffin Mercy Hospital. And the coming events, we have our celebrity basketball game on March 14th at the Heidelberg Gym, and it's free donation, administration, and there's a concession stand. Then we have our annual Palm Sunday dinner drive-through on Sunday, March 24th at the Opportunity Center. Pickup time from 11 till 1 and $12 per person. Then also we got our bakery bingo on March 26th. Doors open at 5 p.m. at the Opportunity Center with bingo starting at 5:30, and the Opportunity Center gym until 7:30. And they're $5 a card, and there's a 50-50 raffle, and there'll also be a concession stand.
And I just wanted to explain a little bit. Our celebrity basketball is a fundraiser, an annual fundraiser for Special Olympics. And then the Palm Sunday is a fundraiser for ACT Council, which is like our PTO parent council, which they do a lot of good things for our individuals, especially around Christmas time, or if there's a need for a donation, something like that. And Bakery Bingo is a fundraiser for our Unity Council, which we put on a conference every year. It's an overnight conference that we hold at Sawmill Creek in Huron. And our individuals. We had, 70 individuals attend and spend the night in November annually. So it's a great event for all of our advocates to come together. So we will leave some pamphlets if anybody is interested, but we appreciate the time and thank you for allowing us to speak tonight.
President?
Sure.
Sean?
Go on.
Whereas individuals with developmental disabilities share a vision for a good life, and whereas each individual has abilities, skills, and talents to enrich the community and people around them, and whereas individuals with and without developmental disabilities live and work side by side across our county to form strong, diverse communities, and whereas the most effective way to increase developmental disability awareness is through everyone's active participation in community activities and the openness to learn and acknowledge each individual's contribution. And whereas we encourage all citizens to support opportunities for people with disabilities that include full access to education, support, housing, employment, and recreational activities, now therefore be it resolved, I, Donald Manell, Mayor of City of Fostoria, Ohio, hereby proclaim the month of March 2024 as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month, and I encourage all members of our community to take the time to get to know someone with a disability and what he or she has to offer.
Looks like a good time to clap. Thank you. Next up on the public portion of the docket is Deb Tyson.
Tyson, 800 Woodward Avenue, Lot 9. And the first thing, I'd like to know which side of the street of Woodward is going to be the one side. Because there's an issue right now. We have a U-Haul that's been parked there, and so both sides are parked, and he's got a car hauler behind him, and it's getting kind of touchy to go up and down Woodward right now.
This is the south side.
Yeah, the car, it's on the south side. The hauler is.
Oh, you do know. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate that. Okay, now, the more important things. And I do thank you guys for taking care of that. I wanted to know if anybody knows about the Board of Zoning Appeals continuing meeting, because when I went February, they said that in March, they had scheduled a Tuesday meeting, but they said it might be on a Wednesday. So right now, I am reading a paper that says it's going to be March 26th, which is a Tuesday. But I know that we always need to double check things. So if somebody could
Is that
double check.
Washington Township one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we need to double check whether it's going to be on the 26th, which is Tuesday, or the 27th, which is Wednesday, because there was a conflict amongst the boards of being able to go. So that was the reason for the maybe change. The other thing was, thank you for your patience. I noticed that the rail cars, we have a lot of rain, and I talked to the EPA, Max Moore. It was not a friendly conversation this time because I did not back down. I was respectful, but he's trying to say that they are about to come out of the consent order because they've been good old boys. And so I want to know, I'd be happy to throw a monkey wrench in there. I'll do it. And that's all I'll say about it. But yeah, that's what needs done. We need to do something because it's real close that they're going to totally say, no consent order. He was straight up with me. I let the dialogue go so I could find out the facts. Now I bring the facts to you guys, and maybe somebody can help. And that's all I have, and I thank you. I thank you for your website and for the opportunity to talk. Any questions for me?
Deb, if you want to stay on the agenda, just email me and stay. Let me start again. Just email me that you want to permanently be on the agenda every time unless you don't, and then let me know. That way it's on
Okay, you
record.
will get an email stating that.
That'll be fine. That way I know to keep you on.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
you're welcome.
Paul Allison. 118 and a half West Center Street, apartment 2.
Paul.
Excuse me? Yes. Thank you for reminding me. Now, Paul Allison, 119 and a half West Center Street, apartment 2. I have now read the proposed resolution regarding the minutes, and I am still of the opinion that it is not a good idea. Because we want to have council activities shown to the most people we can. And when you have minutes here that Tammy provided for all the people who are here, you're providing them for people who probably don't have access to a video audio recording. I was amazed the other day when I didn't have my cell phone with me and I asked somebody in a meeting, well, could I borrow your cell phone and make a phone call? Well, I don't have a cell phone. I only have a landline. I'm sure he doesn't have an email either. There are lots of people that still don't have those things. And let me say this. I'm all in favor of having a digital audio video recording, but not as official minutes. It's not, in my opinion, a good idea. I'm sorry, it isn't. Now, because the fact that the minutes have been stored forever, and I mean back to 1851. The 1851 minutes are at the library because consul, when I was clerk of consul, passed an ordinance to have them there, and they're appropriately kept there. Other minutes have been stored and kept in permanent print form. Tammy has the permanent print form since 2008. I'm not exactly sure where some of the minutes between the ones at the library and the ones that were left here are. As a matter of fact, when I asked, nobody seemed to know. Now, are they in your office? Well, thank you. I appreciate having been told that because I didn't know that. The other thing, and so I just do not agree that it is a good idea. Now, I'm going to mention something that I also along the lines, the library microfished all those old records, and we continued to microfiche them all the way up to 2001, both the ordinances, the resolution, and the minutes. They're available at the library. If you need to look at an old ordinance, if you have a number or a date, you can look it up. I just found the old ordinance regarding the library. When the library first built its parking lot, we had to come to the city to get usage of something like 20 feet of city-owned property on Wood Street. Because if you looked at that, they said Wood Street, well, it's 60-foot right away on the south. It's nowhere near that on the north next to the library. So all these things are available. I would love to see the digital audio recording, but I don't have access to that right now myself. And it's not on my high priority list to get so. Maybe I will eventually, but it's not on my high priority list. As I said, the ordinances, resolution, and minutes are available up to about 2001. If you need something, you can go to the library. They're on microfiche, which actually probably is are the old way of preserving those sort of things and having them readily available to the public, which of course obviously at the library they are readily available to the public. I guess when this came up, I was surprised that it's interesting to have Tim Hoover write a letter. Tim Hoover, when he was law director, asked me to look into where the minutes were and to get them more properly preserved, which I did, and I kept records. And I'm now reviewing my records and looking at my memory stick to find out exactly where some of the records are, and I will prepare another report to council and to the administration exactly where all the records are, minutes, ordinances, and resolutions. But again, I approve. I would like a video, audio of the council activities. I think it makes a lot of sense. I like it, but I don't like it as official minutes. That is my opinion. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jill Filliater, 402 West Culbertson Street. I just want to touch base on just a couple items that I need some clarity on. Again, it is in regards to the Park and Rec and the establishment of the board. It has still not been established. Per the charter that was reviewed in 2020 for the 10-year review by the 15 party, the only changes that they had put in during that time frame was a recommendation to try to do the managerial form of government. I did express my concern that we did not have the charter rules being followed for the board establishment. I brought it up last year. Fortunately, someone from my ward did say I had not the most current. Well, the most current was from 2022, where it says that due haste, we need to get that reestablished, and has the rules on it, and the ordinance was created by the board in 2022. It's been almost 2 years, and the board still hasn't been established. Understand that as part of the charter, when you have certain things, you have to have the voting done by the citizens in order to change things. It is my understanding that we might want to be looking at going a different route versus having the board. But until that time happens, until you get it on the docket, you cannot be making decisions about the parks. You cannot be making decisions about the municipal pool by a group of people that are not on that board. So some of these decisions that have been being made for the reservoir system, for the municipal swimming pool, were in direct violation of the charter, which I've been trying to explain to you now for going on 2 years. It's an easy fix. Get it on the docket if you don't want it anymore, or get it established and get the board established ASAP. They did do the ordinance change in 2022 for the board and the configurations because the school, St. Mullen no longer is in existence, the school. So please look at what you guys decided to do in 2022 and get this board reestablished so that you guys can move forward until you can get it on the docket. I had anticipated it had been on the docket for this March timeframe, but it is not on the docket for this March timeframe. So again, please take a look at it. I'm asking that you follow the guidelines. I don't understand why the people here in council have chosen not to follow the charter. That is my biggest question, because I don't quite understand. You read the charter, you understand the charter, but you're choosing not to follow the charter, and it's very frustrating when it's an easy fix if you want to do something different and just has to get out there. So it's almost, I interpret it as a select group of individuals are making decisions and not following their own guidelines, saying we have to have the city input on doing some of these changes. I'm very appreciative of changes that are occurring. My concern is that just like we're going to have, there's going to be the graffiti people that are being involved. We had an uptake this past weekend. And so we just need to make sure that we are working as a conglomerate group following the guidelines. So that was the first thing that I have on the question. The other one I had was on finance. I have talked to and gotten pretty good clarity. I do understand now the form, and I'll talk with you about that one later because it's the notes. It's the notes. So we'll need to talk about that one so I understand it. But yes, he did help me on trying to understand it. So I'm very grateful. Thank you very much. Last but not least on the thing, remember when I talk about your emergency reads? We are in the top 1% in the state of Ohio for these emergency reads. And I'm looking at some of them that might be coming on emergency reads tonight. Emergency, for lack of getting it organized to do it in a timely manner, is not an emergency on the city's part. We should still be doing our 3 reads. For example, we've known that the eclipse is coming. And I don't know if it's going to be an emergency read, but it is intriguing that we've got on the docket for today about moving the DORA for those 2 days to coincide with the eclipse, which is fine. I think it's great to go ahead and do it as emergency, but why did we have to do it as an emergency type read when we've known for over a year that that's that weekend? You know, so some of these things that we're doing as emergencies, when you look at it, I talked about it last year, we were almost at 75% emergency read for the ordinances for a fiscal year. And that is just astounding, you know. So I do hope that we are going to look at that and try to, we talked about it last meeting where you were going to be more talking about those reads when we were talking, because it's confusing to the citizens when everything's coming to emergency, when we don't give opportunity then to actually understand what you guys are trying to pass. Thank you.
One comment,
Yes, sir.
if I might. As far as the emergency legislation we put through, there was a time when I was on the other side of the railing and I stood there and I used to, just one observation, one piece of it. We're still under financial emergency, and we have to answer to the state auditor's office on everything.
Right.
And because of that, and it's not through any fault of theirs, they're overworked down there. They've got more than one Fostoria to kind of supervise. And because of that, the workload gets backed up, and there's times that some of these issues don't come up until it reaches that point of emergency.
And I totally agree with that.
So
I mean, of that 70-some% from last year, I saw about 42 to 50% of them were truly had to be done because the state auditor said so. And you can see them because I did a timeline study on them. But some of these other ones, we have plenty of planning that you could do a 3 read on. That's the only comment I had to make on it. But thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Sayer, 301 South Main Street. Not incredibly excited to be here. My life has been much better since I stopped attending these, to be honest. We have changed the name from rental registration. It is rental registration. We can change the name to free all puppies. It doesn't change it. That is what it is. Several of you were here not last year, a year and a half ago when you guys had looked into passing this. When this was looked at being passed, at the time, Mike asked for public comment online, which is a wonderful thing that for some reason we went away from. When he asked for public comment online, there were over 200 comments, and probably at least 80% of them said, this is a bad idea. They said that's a bad idea. That was a lot of constituents saying it's a bad idea. They also asked for public comment. They had a public meeting in here, which I attended. Several of you also attended it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Brian, Amy, Tom, Greg, I know you were here. Had a public meeting. There wasn't room to sit. People had to stand. Guess how many people stood up and said, this is a great idea? I remember. 0. 0 people said it's a good idea. When you look at, we're in a housing crisis. We're in the middle of a housing crisis where there are not enough homes for people. I understand, I don't even disagree. I got a copy of the legislation. I don't disagree with the majority of it, but there are a few things in there that are very, very open, very vague, in my opinion, open to corruption and targeting. I know we've said that people don't target. Oddly enough, when I was trying to run for mayor, I got taken to zoning court more times than I'd ever been taken in the prior 10 years. I'm not a coincidence theorist, but that was something. Ever since I was not, life has been better. She started communicating again. Danielle, I know you're related to her. Wonderful person. I've actually got along with all the zoning people. Denny, Maria, Hannah, Danielle, they're all good people. The problem that I initially had, and something that originally upset me, is I kept hearing there were lists. Oh, this is on Josh's list. This is on Deb's list. This is on Eric's list. And I kept questioning, why is there a list? What list are we talking about? I don't understand. I've said before, you could fix all zoning problems. And when you do lists, when you do these sort of things, the previous two safety service directors did some things where they just put people at risk. You guys were dealing with First Amendment auditors. You can't trespass someone from a public building. I don't agree with the gentleman in what he's doing. He's looking for a lawsuit. But the fact that you then trespassed him, then that has to involve every single police officer. They got to be involved every time, and it puts them at risk. When you make lists for the zoning department, you can ask Danielle if I've ever yelled or been mean to her in any way, shape, or form. We get along great. Never had problems with her. I always try solving problems if she tells me there are problems that come up, and they do. Problems come up on occasion. However, it puts her in a bad situation where I know I've talked to her, and she said there's been other landlords that have went at her. I'm not going to be one of them, but the fact that you're making lists, if it's an actual complaint, if you would formalize the process in zoning and make it make sense. It will never make any sense to me. Somebody could come by with a bat, bust out every window in my house. I would have to go and file a police report, and it would be a civil issue. But if my grass grows 6 inches, I'm a criminal. Something doesn't add up, guys. Like I said, the majority of people, if you guys want to keep pushing it forward, I would encourage you to put it before the voters and actually put it before the people, or at least have public input on it. If you don't have public input and you try jamming things down, the city management stuff, 7 times we had to vote on that. No, and it just keeps getting brought up as something that we want to do. If the people say no and your constituents are saying no, there has never been, and you guys can look into it, don't take my word for it, I don't want you to, anywhere where rental registration or higher, how do I want to say it, higher, not registration, higher regulated, anything where regulations are increased, you can actually see the costs go up. Argentina actually just deregulated their housing market. Costs went down for housing more than 30%. We're a low-income town. And I'm not going to pretend. I'm not one of the high-end landlords. I'm not. I have rentals that I rent for under $300 a month. The people that you had in the meetings with you, I guarantee they don't. You're dealing with high-end landlords, which is fine. There's variances, and that's okay. And people do need to be safe. We changed the name, but it's still rental registration, okay? People said no before. You had this room packed full of people telling you it's a bad idea. Online, you had a lot of people telling you it's a bad idea. Talk to your constituents. Don't take my word for any of these things. Talk to them. Really reach out to them, and they'll tell you what they think. And I think that they'll tell you that it's a bad idea. And thank you for your time. Thank you.
In regards to those concerns regarding the landlord ordinance that we're looking at.
State your name.
Corey Sadam, 312 College Avenue. In regards to that landlord ordinance, I would like to just stress my concern too with landlords and stuff. The houses around me fallen in. I know zoning took a look at them, took pictures. I mentioned that last month. There are windows blown out, trash in the yard. It's not taken care of very well. And even though some landlords might take care of their property pretty well, there's a good chunk of houses near me that pose both a safety risk and a health risk. I would definitely still continue and vote on this ordinance if it goes. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no others jumping at the opportunity to speak, we will move into old business.
Ready?
An ordinance to amend section 1106.01, parentheses 150 of the codified ordinances of the city of Fostoria, Ohio concerning the duties of the zoning inspector.
Any desire to have discussion on this ordinance?
I'll move to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion by Mendoza, a second by Cassidy to adopt. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Lehman,
Yes.
Hodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza, Lake.
Yes.
That does pass. It becomes ordinance number 2024-9.
An ordinance to amend section 1305.01, parentheses 16 of the codified ordinances of the city of Fostoria, Ohio concerning the definition of junk.
Any desire for discussion there?
Motion to adopt.
Okay, we have a motion by Lehman, a second by Lake. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Lehman,
Yes.
Hodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza, Lake.
Yes.
That ordinance does pass. It's ordinance number 2024-10. Thank you. Next one.
An ordinance to approve the municipal job creation tax credit agreement between the city of Fostoria, Ohio and National Spinning Company, Inc.
Any need for discussion on that
Move to adopt.
Second.
one? Motion by Podak, second by Cassidy. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Lehman,
Yes.
Hodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza, Lake.
Yes.
That passes and becomes ordinance number 2024-11. And the next one.
A resolution declaring the digital audio/video recording to be the official minutes of the city of the council. I'm sorry. Let me start again. A resolution declaring the digital audio/video recording to be the official minutes of the council of city of Fostoria meetings.
Any discussion?
I have one question. I had this discussion with Sue. When you have an audit, you have to have written minutes. Is that correct? Any auditor that walks into any government entity that wants to do an audit of financials or anything else, they're going to want written minutes. So I'm okay with the fact that we can have digital, but I think we have to have official paper minutes. And maybe we should have Stephanie check that out for sure. I mean, we approve the minutes at every meeting.
The audit requirements are, but as far as meeting, no, there's no requirement.
I know that for audits there is.
I can't hear, you're gonna have to use the microphone. I can't hear you. My hearing is not good.
I'm unaware of the requirements for audits. But as far as the council meeting minutes, there is no requirement that they are written.
I think that might be a good question for the audit team.
I'll
Have you
follow
met
up-
the audit team
I'll
yet?
follow up with the auditor
Okay.
of state.
That was something that I had not thought of until Bob mentioned it, and I don't know that it's a requirement, but it was the first stage of an audit. The auditors came in and they would spend the first few hours doing nothing but reviewing minutes over the last fiscal year. So I think it's worth a investigation.
Any other items for discussion on this one? Right, that was the second reading of this ordinance resolution. Next, please.
An ordinance authorizing supervisory personnel of the city of Fostoria, Ohio to receive supplemental income for obtaining specific class certification as specified and required by the Ohio EPA to operate a municipal water treatment and/or wastewater treatment plant, repealing ordinance number 2008-112.
Any discussion on this one? That was the second reading of that ordinance. Next one.
An ordinance to amend the schedule of fees for all applications for certificates, permits, appeals, variances, amendments, and other matters pertaining to the administration and enforcement of the city's zoning code.
Desire to discuss this one.
I'll move to suspend the 3 reading rule on 3 separate occasions.
Second.
We have a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule by Mendoza, a second by Lake. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Lehman,
Yes.
Podak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza,
Yes.
Lake.
Yes.
The 3 reading rule has been waived.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Who seconded? Sorry. Gotcha. We have a motion by Lake, second by Hall. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Lehman,
Yes.
Podak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza, Lake.
Yes.
That does pass. It is ordinance number 2024-12.
An ordinance enacting new chapter 1357 of the codified ordinances of the city of Fostoria, Ohio, entitled registration.
No.
What's it supposed to be? We didn't fix it.
No, it's right on your agenda, landlord and tenant rights.
Okay,
There's a typo.
okay. Entitled landlord and tenant rights.
Any discussion on that one this evening? Seeing none, that was the second reading of that ordinance. And the last piece of old business this evening,
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids and enter into a contract with the lowest and best bidder for the 2024 street resurfacing program, including pavement removal, surface planning, tack coat, and surface course of certain streets in the city of Fostoria, Ohio, according to specifications to be on file in the office of said mayor, and declaring an emergency to exist.
any discussion? That is the second reading of that ordinance. On to new business.
An ordinance to amend the traffic control map and file for the city of Fostoria, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Discussion. That was the first reading of that ordinance.
A resolution to support Ohio Senate Resolution 196, sponsored by Senator Bill Reinecke, urging the United States Congress to amend the Railway Safety Act of 2023 and declaring an emergency to exist.
Discussion.
I'd like to make a motion that we suspend the 3 reading rule on 3 separate occasions.
Second?
We have a motion by Cassidy, a second by Mendoza to suspend the 3 reading rule on 3 separate occasions. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Lehman,
Yes.
Podak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza, Lake.
Yes.
The 3 reading rule has been waived.
To adopt.
Second.
Seconded. Thank you. We have a motion by Lake, a second by Baker. Clerk, would you call the roll?
Lehman,
Yes.
Podak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza,
Yes.
Lake.
Yes.
That does pass. It's resolution number 2024-13. One.
An ordinance adopting and amending ordinance number 2023-66, permanent 2024 appropriations by decreasing appropriations and appropriating from unappropriated funds in the general fund, fire donations, police ARPA fund, Iron Triangle, Royal Park, and Stormwater Fund, and declaring an emergency.
Any discussion on this one?
Move to suspend the 3 reading rule on 3 separate occasions.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to suspend the three reading rule by Lake, second by Cassidy. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Lehman,
Yes.
Hodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza,
Yes.
Lake.
Yes.
The three reading rule has been waived.
Move to adopt. Second.
We have a motion by Hall, second by Baker to adopt. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Lehman,
Yes.
Hodak,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza, Lake.
Yes.
Does pass. It's ordinance number 2024-14.
An ordinance amending the downtown Fostoria Dora that was enacted on April 5th, 2022, ordinance 2022-17, to temporarily extend the Dora hours to include Sunday, April 7th, and Monday, April 8th, 2024, from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. and declaring an emergency.
Any discussion?
Move to suspend the three reading rule on three separate occasions.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to suspend by Mendoza, second by Cassidy. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Lehman,
Can we discuss that?
Sure.
We have time to do that in three readings, don't we?
Yes.
Even though we don't need 30 days for it, we don't need 30 days for it to take action.
We don't.
Right.
No, if it's signed right away, it becomes law.
Okay.
Okay, so at this
You wait
point,
30 days to sign, which if the mayor does not sign it within 30 days, then it becomes law.
Okay.
But if the mayor signs it when it becomes, when you pass it, it becomes law immediately.
Thank you.
so at this point, we do have an open motion. It could go to the full three readings, so if you are so inclined to not suspend the three reading rule, you would need to
I
affirm by voting no. So you want, any other discussion? Thank you for the question. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Lehman.
No.
Hodak,
No.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker.
No.
Hall.
No.
Mendoza.
If I say no now?
You can say that.
No.
It's totally legal.
Lake.
No.
All right, that does not pass, and that was the first reading of that ordinance. It'll come back again in a couple weeks. The last piece of new business.
Good, because this is exhausting. A resolution approving and ratifying the prior acts of the department heads and safety service director and approving then and now certificates for said expenditures and declaring an emergency.
Any desire for discussion?
Move to suspend the three reading rule on three separate occasions.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Lehman, second by Mendoza to suspend the three reading rule on three separate occasions. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Lehman,
Yes.
Kodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza, Lake.
Yes.
The three reading rule has been waived.
Move to adopt.
Second.
All right. Motion by Lake, second by Hall. Oh, I heard louder. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Kodak,
Yes.
Lehman,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker, Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza, Lake.
Yes.
That does pass as resolution number 2024-15. And that is the end of our new business. Is there any desire to go into executive session?
There is.
Okay.
I propose to go into executive session pending or imminent court action.
We have a second.
Second.
I'm assuming there'll be no business to follow.
We do this one.
And we'll do miscellaneous first, but we'll have this vote first. So we have a motion to go into executive session with no business to follow for pending or imminent court action. Motion by Cassidy, second by Lehman. Clerk, would you call the roll?
Lehman, sorry. Kodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza, Lake.
Yes.
That does pass. I'll record the time as 6:59, but we will do miscellaneous business first. There will be no business to follow after that. To start with miscellaneous business, Mr. Manel, would you like to
Yes, I would like to appoint Greg Cassidy to the Tax Incentive Review Board.
Okay. Do you need a motion on that, or is it just one of those automatic appointments?
It needs approval of the council.
Okay. Do we have approval?
I move we appoint Mr. Cassidy to the Tax Review Board.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Podak, second by Lake to appoint Greg Cassidy to the Tax Incentive Review Board. Clerk, would you call the roll?
Lehman,
Yes.
Hodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Abstain?
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza, Lake.
Yes.
All right, it looks like that does carry. I wanted to address a couple things in the public before we go back into executive session. The state of Ohio puts out some pointers on sunshine laws and open meeting rules and so on, and we have several new people in various positions in the city, and I just want to take the opportunity before we might accidentally mess something up, just to remind all of us that we should not be corresponding to all via email unless we're just letting people know something, like we're having a meeting at this time on this date. We should never be telling people what we think should happen, and we should also never, ever be responding to this body, because the moment we start corresponding as a body electronically, we are having a meeting that now is not in the public. So before that would actually happen, I wanted to make sure that I addressed such things so we don't have an issue to deal with later, because there's a lot of new people here. The second one is that we had some interesting stuff with correspondence requests. Just again, because this is video recorded and out to the public, I wanted to let people know that they can email me directly, or more preferably email the clerk of council, Tammy, to request to be on the docket or to request to have something read in communications. But if it doesn't come through those channels, it is not an expectation to actually make it to the meeting, because this is a meeting for city council representing the people. It's actually, contrary to many people's beliefs, it's not the mayor's meeting at all. We invite him and he graciously comes to the meetings. We give him an opportunity to speak. We let him do things that we don't have to let him do, but this is council's meeting, not the mayor's meeting. So if you're requesting things to the mayor, he could use his portion of the meeting to address those things. But if it's not coming through us officially, we don't have to, as council, accept those requests that weren't made through our channels. So I just wanted to give that we are more than open to receive those things. And does anyone else have any other miscellaneous tonight? Sure. Yeah.
Regarding the sunshine law, for all of the new council members, everyone is required to take that training once per term. So everyone that has been elected to a new term or appointed to a new term, you are required to take that sunshine law training. We can do legislation to make me the designee to take that training for you all. But I would recommend that anyone that has not taken that training before, that they do take that training. I guess if you want to make me the designee, let me know and I'll do up that legislation. Otherwise, I'd recommend everyone do that. You can always find it free online. They do an online training, so very informative.
Thank you. Any other miscellaneous this evening? We will now go into executive session. It is 7:03. The only thing that will happen after this is we will come out of executive session and adjourn. So there is no business to follow. Thank you. like to come out of executive session. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Lehman,
Yes.
Hodag,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker, Hall, Mendoza, Lake.
Yes.
All right, we are out at 7:20 PM.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
We have a motion by Mendoza, second by Lake to adjourn. Clerk, would you call the roll?
Lehman,
Yes.
Hodag,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker, Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza, Lake.
Yes.
And we are adjourned because of Cassie's delay at 7:21.